What did you eat for breakfast?
Nothing, actually. I'm not a breakfast eater.
That's not the first time someone's answered that way. You are listening to the Music on Your Own Terms podcast. Business, encouragement, constant improvement, analysis, digital distribution, musicians, recommendation, promotion, entrepreneurship, live shows, music, touring, streaming, hustling, overcoming self-overcoming, anxiety, accomplishment, dealing with depression. Welcome to another installment of the Music on Your Own Terms podcast. Thanks for checking me out. Stay tuned because I have a bunch of interviews in the works, so it looks like there's going to be a lot of great information coming your way in the lead up to the holiday season. This episode, I sit down with Justin Corley, owner of the Skinny Armadillo Print Company, which is my first interview in my new home of Texas. We talk about shirt printing, business, and merch sales, but despite both of us being Wayne's World nerds, somehow the subject never comes up. Also, as Justin is a voracious consumer of audiobooks and podcasts of the entrepreneurial kind, I thought it would be great if he gave me a list of his top books. You can find these on both the show notes page and also the new resources page on the website, where I'll be adding books, podcasts, links to TED Talks, and any other info that I think would be useful for people to check out. The website, of course, is musiconyourownterms.com, or find the link on the Facebook page at facebook.com/musiconyourownterms. Let's get to the interview. Party on, Justin. So let's start off. Introduce yourself. Tell us about your business and where it got started.
All right, so my name's Justin Corley. I'm one of the owners here. So it kind of started about 30 years ago. My mom, she's very artistic, and we kind of started off with some trade shows. She would take denim jackets and things like that and just, paint city scenes, old Cadillacs, leopard print, whatever was kind of trendy, she would paint and do that, and then we'd go to trade shows and sell them. And then after, 10 years or so, people just said, hey, we need shirts for our cheerleaders or football team or for our whatever it was. And so she just became kind of a contractor for embroidery, screen printing, jerseys, pretty much you name it for schools and stuff. That's what she did. And then, of course, in the meantime, I'm doing a bazillion other things. I've worked at an aquarium taking care of 18,000 gallons of North Pacific sea life. Worked at a machine shop building parts for American Iron Horse motorcycles. Worked at an insurance agency doing bookkeeping and accounting. And then, of course, that was super exciting. So Mom just needed help and just said, hey, the people that I'm using, they're constantly behind and missing orders and deadlines and so on and so forth. And so it just became a deal of, hey, do you want to open a print shop? And I said, excellent. Sure, let's go for it. So cool. Off we went.
So you are a big music fan?
I'm a big music fan, yes.
So that very, very nicely ties into the podcast. Mm-hmm. What would you say the amount of shirts you do for bands versus schools and businesses would be?
I would say we probably do 20% bands, and a good rest of the portion is schools and businesses and charities and things like that need help with their stuff. But for me, I love doing stuff for bands and musicians because you have a little bit more creative freedom. You get the opportunity to print on better merchandise because obviously if you're a band or a musician, the whole point is to get your music heard, to get your name out there so that more people hear you, so that you can continue doing what you love.
Exactly.
And so if you put it on garbage apparel, then nobody wants to wear it, no matter how cool your design is. So
absolutely. What got you into music in the first place? What?
I don't really know, honestly. Growing up, my grandfather had a jukebox in his house, and of course, it was free. He had it rigged up to where we could just play whatever we wanted to, and it started off with old school country, Hank Williams, and the whole list of those guys. And then it just kind of evolved from there. As trends kind of came and went, you'd kind of jump over to this type of music and then listen to that for a while. But it was always kind of country for us. I mean, we are from Texas, and that's kind of where our roots are, I suppose. And then I got a hold of Tom Petty, and that pretty much changed all of my rock outlooks and things. And but I feel like I'm pretty musically diverse. There's not really too much of anything that I don't like, except for, I'd say I'm not a huge rap person, but I can listen to some of it depending on
to
who it is. Sure.
So, absolutely. We're sitting in your office, and there's a couple of your Epiphone guitars. Look kind of cool. You play?
I dabble enough to sound horrible. I just appreciate the look of a good guitar. There's just, for me, whenever I'm somewhere, and even the bands that I do music for, I can have seen them 100 times, and I'll go see them the next time, and it just brings a feeling of peace to me whenever there's just, of course they do different renditions of songs and things change over the years, but there's just a familiarity. For me, music is kind of a calming thing, and it doesn't matter whether it's, just like we were listening to back there, whether it's Stranglehold, which isn't necessarily calming music, but it's just the riffs and the grunginess of some of that stuff that comes through. But then you have acoustics and fiddles and things that are just, they have a nice, I don't know, it's just soothing.
Cool. Excellent. So going back to the business a little bit, what are your goals, and what's the mission of the business?
For the business in general, it's just to provide great customer service and to provide something unique. Most people can create a general boxy design, but what we try to do that sets us apart is quite literally thinking outside of that box, and whether it's a print on the side of the shirt or back shoulder, or adding different elements, different textures to it, whether it's a foil print, a glitter print, a water-based print, there's so many different things that you can do nowadays with prints just to make them unique, so that it sets you apart. Musically, the goal is to help that artist do what they want to do. Obviously, it can be a challenge to book gigs, to pay for hotels and things like that as you're getting started. And one way to offset that cost is by selling merch. And obviously, the better your merch is, the better your sales are, and the faster you kind of grow and help pick those things up. And some things are kind of a cult following, I guess, if you will, and it's just like, hey, we know this is this style of music, and the shirts are always going to be this way, and we don't want it to change.
Right.
But sometimes, trends change, and you go from this style of shirt to that style. But I think as long as, you're doing what you need to do with your band, then, that helps set you up for who you are and to grow musically too.
Great. Kind of sticking with that subject, as a business owner, what have you learned that might be helpful to musicians, bearing in mind, their music is a business. So what kind of things have you learned that might help?
So this is where the challenge lies, because the one thing that I've learned is don't go cheap. which again, as a startup, can be difficult because if you don't have money to buy merch or to buy good equipment or instruments or whatever, then you just have to work with what you have, and that's fine. You can do that. You build up to what that next level is. But for me, I have a band that I started doing stuff for almost 6 years ago now. When I first started, they were doing $5 and $10 t-shirts on just the cheapest garbage. Not intentionally, like, hey, we're going to put garbage out, but just, hey, we're new, we're trying to develop this stuff, and so we're just going to use a cheap shirt and whatever. So after talking with them, they come in, we feel some different shirts and go through some things, and their merch sales have increased. We've had a conversation of, if you would have told me we're selling shirts for $20 5 years ago, I would have told you you're out of your damn mind. There's no way that anybody's going to buy one of our shirts for our band for $20. And now they're selling them for $20 and $40 because we're putting in on better quality garments. And like I said, the whole point of that is that you want people to wear your stuff so that when they're out, somebody sees something and they're like, oh, hey, I've never heard of, XYZ band or whatever that is. And just by seeing those things out there, especially with social media these days, hey, I'm going to Google Poo Live Crew and see what this is all about. Oh, they're America's favorite cover band, so it just draws attention to that.
Continuing on that topic, what have you learned from bands you've worked with about merch sales?
Sometimes you have to go a little outside of your comfort zone. There are certain restrictions where you can, I think, say, hey, this is us, this is our identity. We're not going to get this type of merch or whatever because that's not us. But by the same token, if you can sell something to those people that are wanting it, you have to give a little. There's never a solid black and white. There are areas of gray where you say, hey, we don't really do tank tops, but there's a ton of girls that follow us, and girls want tank tops.
Right. So
we may have to sell some tank tops. There may be, obviously if you're a heavy metal band, you're not going to do, like an Aztec print on one of your shirts. But
that depends on the genre.
Well, yeah.
I can think of a few.
But, there are times where people go, oh, that's not really, that doesn't really fit with us. I don't want to do that. But it's the most popular thing right now. And again, you don't always want to do what's trendy. You want to do, stay true to yourself and everything. But, I think there are times where you got to slide into that gray area and do that. And I think sometimes as an artist, you do have to bend just a little bit and just take a leap. And, it doesn't mean you have to order 500 of them or 100. Hey, order 25, see how it goes. And if it doesn't sell worth a crap, then,
you try.
This is not part of your fan base, and that's how it is. And I think that's important to be able to identify with your fan base and go, hey, these are the people that we're trying to reach. This is who we're trying to connect with, and this is the type of stuff that they want.
So moving on to more technical information, obviously the quality is very important for you, and the print and everything. But what do bands have to think about or keep in mind when they're ordering shirts and designing shirts?
I'm kind of a firm believer in less is more sometimes. So you don't have to have like an over-the-top design that's got all 50 different colors on it and stuff like that. Although sometimes those can be very cool. But I was at a class years ago, and this lady that was teaching it said, what is a weed to one is a wildflower to another. And, my mom's my business partner. Her style is how much glitter and bling and whatever can we put on the shirt. And for some people, that's great, and it sells. But for me, I'm a little more simple than that. I like my one color designs. So I think one of the things that you have to consider is, again, who's your target market, and then secondly, not all shirts fit the same. So if you're a band that your average following is 13 to 21, then you can go with a more, feminine cut shirt. If you're in a group that, hey, my target is moms and dads and, a middle-aged group around, between 30 and 50, well, then you don't want to go with something that's skin tight because, when you start seeing rolls of things, then some people don't feel comfortable with that, and they're like, hey, this shirt's not for me.
Right. Anything you want to touch on about the artwork itself, or
printing on T-shirts is different than printing on a CD or on posters or anything like that. So there are, within reason, there are some restrictions to some of the artwork. We've gotten some things that have really been kind of over the top with lightning bolts and things coming out of guitars and hands and different things that you're just like, that's an awesome picture, but I just don't know how it's going to translate to a T-shirt. So, and that's not to say that it can't be done in a different type of printing medium, but just keep in mind sometimes it's not always quite as simple as, here's my image, let's put this on a T-shirt.
Right. Okay. I guess moving on to more broad subjects, what major challenges have you had to overcome in business or life in general, and if any, and what did you learn from those experiences?
I think one thing, again, like I said earlier, one of our main goals is great customer service. So with that comes a little OCD of making sure, hey, this print needs to be perfect, it needs to be straight, it needs to be centered, it needs to be all that stuff, which we still do, but I've had to learn you can't spend 5 hours making 10 T-shirts to make sure they're all perfect, because then I'm not going to be in business anymore. But there are certain things that, because it's my job to notice those things, I will notice them and nobody else will notice them. I mean, your average person is not going to go, oh, look, that's 1 point out of place. So there have been certain things that I've had to let go of and just know that, hey, this print still looks really, really good. Is it perfect? No, but it's 98% there, and 98% is pretty good. And then the other thing to know is that you're not going to please everybody. It doesn't matter how hard you want to. I'm a people pleaser. It drives me crazy when I can't take care of everybody and do everything in one day or, half a day or whatever like they want. But I'm still just a person. I'm doing the best I can do, and it's my job to make sure that, that we're putting out that quality, that we're putting out pretty much everything that we can do. And then lastly, challenges. My dad was killed in a car wreck 2 years ago.
Sorry to hear that.
So it was kind of, my parents have always been together. I mean, it would have been 42 years this year. And so never, I feel lucky to always have been in a household where I have a mom and dad, and I have siblings, and we had a great family dynamic. And I know after that's gone, you realize that not everybody has that, and there are different types of struggles. But what I've been able to take away from that is everything that my dad taught me, work ethic, and just as cliche and cheesy as it sounds, the old golden rule of, treat everybody as you'd want to be treated, do the best you can do, and then you have nothing to regret at the end of it. And
I'm definitely all about that.
And that, to me, that's what I do every day. We come in, we have our struggles. Yes, we're not perfect. We miss orders. We mess up on things from time to time, but we also do a lot of stuff right. And, part of the thing whenever we started the screen printing portion of this business was we have team members. We don't have employees, because I feel like team members communicate better with each other. They work better with each other. Employees are just here to collect money.
Right.
And I don't want that. I want people that I can talk to, have a conversation with. I want to know about their kids. I want to know, if something happens to one of their family members, how would I handle that, and that's exactly how I tried to let things happen. Is just, hey, let's just treat this like a family business, which it is.
Right.
And we know that with families, they're not perfect. And so sometimes you have to, compromise a little bit.
Excellent. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
That's great. Anything else you'd like to touch upon for anything?
Not anything that we haven't already touched on, I don't think. I think the quality, again, going back to the merch and trying to promote yourself, I think just the importance of doing good quality stuff that people are going to buy. I think that's really kind of the key is again, I think, we did a festival a couple of months ago. They set a new sales record for merch sales.
Excellent.
Because we had great designs. We had it on great apparel. There was 14, 15 other bands there, and I know for a fact we outsold every single one of them. And we had multiple people come up and say, hey, the most difficult thing we had to do today was decide which one of these shirts to pick. And that's always a great thing to hear as a band and as a merch person, is, how when you look out and you have 15 people in line waiting to buy a shirt for your band, and you look at the other booths and there's 2 people there, then,
got it right.
there's something that we're doing right. And I think it's because, again, we look at the quality. We're trying to do good quality stuff. And it's not always just about T-shirts too. There's koozies. There's like the guitars that you see up here. They sell those guitars. Things. People want to be connected. And like I said in the beginning, love Tom Petty. The last Petty concert I went to, music was great. It was fine, but I paid $150 a ticket.
Yep.
To go sit half a mile away and see an ant play, I Won't Back Down.
Right.
Which again sounded fantastic, but I could hardly see him. Where when a lot of these other bands that I go to now, I go talk to them afterwards. We have a beer together. We'll take a shot together. We'll do whatever it is. And if I want to get something autographed, hey, I've got a fiddle over there that's autographed by that whole band. To me, that's super cool. So I think the more, like, as a musician, that you can connect with people and
right.
keep it on a personal level, then 1, your music has more meaning to them, and 2, they're more likely to promote you to other people.
Right.
Whether it's coming in and just like you and I've had conversations about bands, hey, this is a great band. I love these guys. Now I'm more likely to go look them up and go,
exactly.
I really like the way that sounded. Simon loves them, so let's give them a whirl. So you never know, and it just takes one person to kind of start growing that stuff. So,
and just a note for listeners: the 2 guitars in question actually have a picture on them each, and it's the Braun brothers. Braun. So I'll put some pictures up of that. You want to just tell a quick story of where they came from?
Sure. So the Braun brothers, I want to say the reunion started around 39 years ago up in Idaho. And their dad is Muzzy Braun, and they have 4 boys. 2 of them broke off separately to create their own bands as they grew up. They played together growing up with their dad, little county fair gigs, and they played Carson a time or 2. And then as they grew up, they're all super musically talented. Lead singer of Reckless, plays drums, harmonica, electric, acoustic. It's pretty amazing, all the different things that really all of them play. And so they just started their bands, and they've been doing really well. I know Reckless just celebrated, I want to say 20 years, their first CD release. Mickey and the Motor Cars, which we do all of their merch. They're around 16 or 17 years into it now. And the cool thing about them is they travel all over the country, but they've played in Europe a couple times, over in Ireland, in Germany, and they're just a fun group of guys. They write all of their own music, they write all their own lyrics, they're producing their own records. It's really quite impressive what they've done over the years, and so every year they put on a festival for 3 days in Idaho. Which is now in Chalice, Idaho, and there's about 3,500 people that invade a tiny town for 3 days, and you hear about 15 musical acts every year, and it could be some up-and-comers, or it could be somebody that's just blowing the scene away right now, which this year there was a little of both of those.
Excellent.
So it's pretty fun. It's a great time.
So let's wrap it up there and tell everyone, where they can find you and reach out on.
Sure. So,
the interwebs.
Our website is skinnyarmadillo.com. Instagram, you can just search up the Skinny Armadillo and find us there. We try to post, as we're printing and taking pictures of things, whether it's embroidery, we'll do some slow-mo shots or whatever, which is kind of cool to see. But yeah, that's pretty much us on the web, and Instagram is where to find us, and we love what we do, so it's fun.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to me. It was a really great interview. With that, we'll wrap up.
Okay, awesome.
Thanks again for listening, and don't forget to check out some pictures of Justin's guitars and cool memorabilia, along with some amusing Wayne's Road related photos and related links on the show notes page of the website, musiconyourownterms.com, and of course at facebook.com/musiconyourownterms. This episode we have new music from Music on Your Own Terms alum Sadie Vada, former vocalist of Cruel Miracle. She has new solo music out, which to me is more rootsy sounding, and I think you'll agree kicks ass. This track is entitled Jersey Carolina. Check out the rest of her new material on Spotify, and I'll be catching up with Sadie in the near future to chat about the new music. Thanks for listening, and remember, keep sharpening the saw, play loud, and as always, be excellent to each other.
When my knight in armor would tear me away just one chance, I take it and fly. 'Cause I tell you right now, they won't get me alive. 'Cause I don't